What's up, space pirates? This is your captain, the delightfully deviant Dr. Disaster, and right now, let's talk about the medicine that the Disney Corporation needs to take in order to eject the likes of Kathleen Kennedy and Kevin Feige from its system.
1/2 teaspoon for fast, effective relief.
You may have already heard about this Nelson Peltz fella who's trying to push his way onto the Disney Board of Directors alongside his ally, Jay Rasulo. He is the ally of Ike Perlmutter, the former Marvel boss who was unceremoniously dumped from Disney last year, and these guys are all interested in changing the culture of Disney as a whole. Now, people in this space, the people who follow my channel, we love properties like Marvel and Star Wars and Indiana Jones, and we have been clamoring for Kathleen Kennedy and Kevin Feige to be exorcised from Disney, but like a bad case of constipation, we just can't get rid of them.
I have a tummy ache. I'd like to see the nurse.
That is why we need Nelson Peltz to win this thing. We need him to gain a spot on the board so that he can push out the people who are ruining the company and damaging Disney's intellectual properties. In this video, we are going to look at an announcement Nelson Peltz and his investment group Trian made, which suggests he would absolutely push to get rid of executives like Kevin Feige. It's right there in black and white. I don't think there's any arguing with it. And then we are going to look at broad stroke reasons as to why they are justified in doing so. And then we will finish off the video by looking at the likelihood of Peltz's success in achieving his place on the board. Hopefully he makes it. And then we could be on our way to emptying Disney's bowels. Alright, me hearties, don't forget to hit that like button, and don't forget to follow me on Twitter. My handle there is Dr. Disaster1. In any event, let's dive right into our topic of the day by looking at this article from Deadline, whose headline says, Nelson Peltz names Disney directors he once ousted in proxy fight. Now, I am well aware that the information that I'm presenting today is a little bit dry, so I'm going to summarize as much as possible and skip over certain parts as we go. If you want to read the article in its entirety, I will be providing the link for it in the description. Anyhow, the article starts off by saying Nelson Peltz wants Disney shareholders to elect him and former Disney executive Jay Rasulo to the company's board, and today he unveiled the 2 current directors he'd like unseated to make room. Trian, Peltz's investment firm, asked shareholders to withhold votes from Maria Elena Lagomasino. I have no idea if I'm pronouncing that right, and I guess I really don't care, and Michael Froman, and vote for himself and Rasulo instead as he ramps up his campaign against Disney for what he calls poor management that's resulted in a lagging stock price. The board showdown will come at Disney's annual meeting this spring. The date hasn't been announced. Now, last year this occurred on April 3rd, so we probably have another 2 months before the vote takes place. But continuing on, Peltz has been slamming the company in shareholder communications and on a website called Restore the Magic.
I like it.
Anyone who slams the management of Disney these days is basically just automatically an ally of mine. Hell, even if everything that Peltz did drove the company into the ground even faster, I would consider it an improvement. anything is better than this mundane, slow march toward a demise that everyone but Disney executives can see. But we're going to skip down a bit in the article to what I consider to be the most interesting part. They talk about a filing that Nelson Peltz and his associates filed, in which they slam Lago Messino and Froman. They mention lack of proper experience and the fact that they hand out compensation packages to executives that are misaligned with their performance. Specifically, they talk about the compensation that was given to Bob Iger last year after his shitty performance. But we're going to read from here at the end of their list of complaints because this is where it gets good. It says, finally, each of the opposed company nominees is a member of the company's governance and nominating committee, where they have overseen poor corporate governance and significant succession issues. Disney didn't immediately respond to a request for comment on the filing. Yeah, of course they didn't, because half the company is shitting bricks at the prospect of Peltz getting put on the board of directors. Now, I did some research on Disney's governance and nominating committee, and as I said before, this is all a bit dry. I will spare you all having to read through all the crap that I read through. Tons and tons of pages of crap. But it turns out that the committee is usually made up of 3 people who oversee the corporate governance guidelines, which are laid out in Disney's Articles of Incorporation. These guidelines make it clear that it is precisely the 3 people on the governance and nominating committee who make the determinations on whether or not an executive continues to work at the company or whether they are to find someone to succeed them. This means that Nelson Peltz is targeting 2 of the 3 board members who have been determining whether or not Kathleen Kennedy gets to keep her job. I doubt this is a coincidence, and for good reason. We're going to pick on Lucasfilm here because I don't have time to also pick on Marvel, but these bozos at Lucasfilm have not released a Star Wars film since 2019 because the movies ripped over half the audience away from the franchise. The Indiana Jones film that they put out last year cost them hundreds of millions of dollars. Their shills in the media underestimate the losses in this headline on purpose to protect Kennedy because they are ideologically aligned, but they lost a lot of money on a property, Indiana Jones, that has no business losing money. The studio's only success, The Mandalorian, has been systematically gutted after the first 2 seasons by Kathleen Kennedy and her crony Dave Filoni, to the point that the audience now hates it, and all of the Star Wars shows have seen flagging interest according to Google Trends. If you have watched this channel very much in the past, you will know that I talk about this all the time. Star Wars shows are losing interest. Google Trends points this out very nicely, but I don't have time to go into the details here. Suffice to say, Star Wars is dying or dead, depending on your point of view, and that is inexcusable. The only way to kill it was to hate it and what it was originally meant to be, and that is precisely what Kathleen Kennedy has done. So I think that it's likely that Peltz, if he is put on the board, will eliminate executives that pushed the company in this woke direction. On his own website, Restore the Magic, Peltz's group talks about what he wants to do with studios like Lucasfilm. If you look here where it says studio creativity, it says they want to improve the output and economics of our film studios. They plan to do this by using board-led reviews of creative processes and structure to restore leadership accountability and reclaim #1 box office position with leading economics. Sounds to me like firing jackasses is very much on the table. But now that I got your hopes up, what are the odds that Peltz actually wins this thing? Well, this article from Variety contests it. I'm not going to read it because once again, it is long and it is dry. The link for this article is in the description if you want to read the whole thing yourself, but let me summarize it here. They shill for the Disney board in this article by pointing out that all the board members won last year with overwhelming majorities, but the article has to concede that they were largely uncontested last year, so of course they won. Peltz gave them a chance to right the ship last year, withdrawing his name from consideration because he believed the board would make necessary changes. This year, after the disaster of 2023 for Disney at the box office, and Disney's poor streaming numbers, and the poor performance of ESPN+, this leads me to believe he will not back down this time. Now, I will say this, the people who are still invested in Disney these days are likely either the sort who are true believers, who buy into the DEI garbage, hook, line, and sinker, or they are normies who just have their money invested in Disney because that's a very normie thing to do and they just don't pay attention. So it is possible that Peltz will not get any traction. He and his investment group represent somewhere around 2% of the vote based on current market cap of Disney. So I'm leaning toward it being a bit unlikely that he is put on the board, but who knows? Maybe, just maybe, some folks are finally fed up with losing money.
Thanks for watching, me hearties. If you haven't already, your captain is inviting you to subscribe to the channel and become a part of the crew. Life as a space pirate may not be glamorous, but there's always plenty of booty.